I think there's three reasons why people are here. You haven't created a plan before. You want to see what it's about. You're not happy with the current process you go through, perhaps. And maybe you want to pick up nuggets that could help you continue to profitably grow your business. So, Clint, Amber, give us some feedback on what your thinking is, and there you go. So you haven't created a plan before. You want to see what it's about. You're not happy. Well, here's what I can offer you with a response to that. I have a goal. I have some targets that I want to achieve. First of all, for those that are looking for nuggets, and you're going to get nuggets whether you like them or not, it's going to help you strategically plan to profitably grow your business. If you're not happy with your current process, well, you'll know how to create a strategic plan that profitably grows your business, and you're also going to learn some obstacles to avoid. And if you're new to this, well, that's good. I'm glad that you're here, because I think when we're done, you'll feel confident. You can take steps to at least be thinking about how to profitably grow your business, regardless of the size of your business. So thank you for giving me that feedback. Today, we're going to look at 7 keys to success, 3 mistakes that I consider to be the top mistakes that people make when they're planning. And then we're going to talk about the number 1 single biggest obstacle to having success with your plan. At the end of this, we'll have an opportunity for questions. If you have some as we go along, feel free to include that in the chat box or the question and answer section. This is going to seem like a fire hose. So if you're not, don't have to take notes. You don't have to. You can if you want, obviously, but we will give you a copy of A, the slides, and B, the recording, so that you can follow along later if you feel like there's some nuggets you want to extract from it. And now you're thinking, okay, who is this Randy Goruk guy? Clint knows me, so that's good. For others here, I've been involved doing the creation or facilitating plans for over 40 years. Variety of different plans you can see that I've been involved in, and in various industries. And I was fortunate to work with an organization that did a really good job of planning. I was a senior manager, and as a result of all of that, we took a business that was roughly $100 million to about $1 billion over a 26-year period. And it isn't because we were really, really good. We were just really, really good at planning. And because we were good at planning, the results came. So let's take a look at not all 3 mistakes. I'm going to give you the number 1 mistake, and that is, number 1 mistake is thinking you don't need a plan. People think they don't need a plan. They think, well, I had a good year, I'm just going to keep doing it. And a plan isn't to write it on a napkin over a cocktail or something that you're going to sell more next year. Regardless of the size of your company, you really will benefit your organization by having a well thought out, thorough plan. So I said, well, what's it really going to do for me? Well, first of all, I'm going to give you three things that you will benefit from when you have a plan. First of all, it establishes a direction as if you were going to go on vacation. Think about it this way. If you're going on a vacation, you just go on vacation, you're just going to show up somewhere. No, what you do is you think about it, where to go, how I'm going to get there, when I'm going to go, how long will I stay, what's my budget going to look like, and you go on vacation. And there was this time back in 2008 or so, when we had a pretty nasty recession in the construction and building materials industry. And I had a client who was doing really, really well, moving along very, very good, very top of his game. And I asked him this question: if you knew you'd be losing money in 6 months from now, what would you do about it today? Randy, that's never happened before. We've never lost money. We're not going to start losing money in 6 months. So he totally blew me off, totally discounted. I said, I'm not saying you would lose it, but if you did, think about if you knew that you would, what would you do about it? Unfortunately, he refused to answer the question, and 6 months later, things went bad, and they ended up cutting their staff from 100 and something to 50 something, and they lost their revenue from whatever it was to half of what it was. And it cost them dearly. So Alan Lincoln has this great quote, which I think about. Planning is bringing the future into the present so you can do something about it now. And that's what purpose of this question really was. Think about, can you build this home or this inn without a plan? Probably you could, but it may not be quite as good if you had a plan. So people build plans so that you can create something around it. A second reason why you should have a plan is it does maximize opportunities for profitable growth. Profitability is one thing for sure. Growth is the other thing that happens because you've got a plan. And the third thing we want to do is minimize threats to your business. There are some unforeseen things out there that you just may not see, and unfortunately could cost you dearly. And you end up wasting a lot of money, and you end up wasting a lot of time, which in the construction industry is predominantly money. So when Benjamin Franklin said this one time, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. And I think you may have heard that quote before, but it's so true that if you don't plan and prepare for the year ahead or the 2-3 years ahead, you most likely you may not achieve what you want to achieve. So let's look at the 7 keys real quick. First one I say is you've got to be very clear on who you really are. What does that mean? Well, you've got to be very clear on what is your purpose, what is your mission, what are the values and the culture that you want to have, what's the business you're in. And I think about somebody who's in the lumber industry serving general contractors. Well, if they take on a division of hummingbird feeders, that's not a very good fit. Now, if you're serving the general public, well, that might be a good fit. So you got to be clear on who you are and what business you're in so that you can stay focused on that by being clear on what your mission is. And the other thing I want to say is, for number 2, is be clear on where you're going. Where you want to go. Do you want to grow to be the biggest in your market? You just want to have a comfortably good growing business, and do you know what you're doing and where you're going? And some people don't. They just go with no end in sight. So you have to have a short-term goals. You want to have a long-term vision. You've got to be able to think beyond just what you're looking at. So long-term vision, short-term goals and objectives. The third key I say is you need to objectively analyze your business. Well, objectively analyze the business. Well, if you're going to objectively analyze the business, I'm talking about taking a look at it internally, but also taking a look at it externally. There's a lot of factors that impact your business that you have outside of your walls, and you have plenty of factors inside your walls. And if you're not objective in analyzing your business or don't have the capability of doing that, then you're going to miss the opportunities, you're going to miss the threats, and you may not achieve the vision and the mission that you set out to achieve. So you've got to be able to analyze what you've got in front of you. To analyze what's in front of you, you need to have tools and resources. So here's a few ideas of what you might need to have. You might need to have tools to help you choose priorities. I'm going to show you one in a minute. You need to have tools for creating action plans. I'm going to share one with you in a minute. You want to analyze your competitors. Yeah, I've got one of those to share. Customer acquisition. That's about capturing market share, analyzing your vendors, consolidating opportunities. And there's so many other tools that you need to build your business. And these are typically worksheets. They're not all that complex, but it's the thought that goes into all of this that's important for you and your team to be thinking about. And of course, there's SWOT, analyzing SWOT. And you all know all about SWOT. So let me just share it with you real quick. I won't get into a lot of detail with SWOT, assuming that most of you know about that. But for SWOT analysis, S is the strengths. Strengths are good stuff. Let's do more of those. And then we have weaknesses. Weaknesses are typically things that are bad, and you just want to fix them as quickly as you can. O is for opportunities, good for the future. Let's establish priorities and what we're going to tackle, because you can't tackle all of those opportunities that might exist. And then T is the threats. They're not good for the future, and you need a remedy, and you need it fairly quickly. Now, this tool is very, very old, but very, very proven. Some people go through the SWOT analysis, breeze through it without much thought. I'm just going to give you one clue on things to look for. First of all, maybe I should ask you what might be a good focus for you and your organization related to SWOT. So Danielle, if you've got that other poll that you could launch, that'd be great. If you are available, that'd be super. And if you're not, there you go. Thank you. So which of the following best represents your focus on planning? Would it be leveraging strengths, minimizing weaknesses, maximizing opportunities, tackling threats, or maybe an equal focus on all of the above? And let's just see what you think. And I'm going to share and compare your results with the results that I took from a LinkedIn poll I did about a month or so ago. So, Danielle, whenever you think we've got enough feedback, boom, touchdown. Everybody's saying the right thing here, because you need to do exactly that. Focus on all of the above. Thank you very much. I think that if I could share with you this poll I did with LinkedIn, I had several hundred people give me feedback here. Leveraging strengths, they said, well, there's 24, roughly 25% of the people who participated in that poll said leveraging strengths was important. 5% says weaknesses. Are you kidding me? I think if you have weaknesses, you need to focus on that, because you got to get it fixed. Otherwise, you won't profitably grow your business. Everybody wants to focus on opportunities. 66.5%. Well, if you're going to focus on opportunities, how do you focus on opportunities when you aren't fixing your weaknesses, or you are not leveraging your strengths? And then we had you got, again, 3%, 4% of folks thinking tackling threats was the most important. I don't get it. I think that the right answer, in my opinion, is you focus equally on each of these so that you can maximize the use of the tool and be able to build your plan accordingly. So here, let me give you this example I wanted to share with you about how to use it. If you had listed your strength, and let's just say, for sake of discussion, that we list your strength, and your strength was, oh, we have the best customer service reputation there is. People love us. We're so good. All right. Well, then that's a strength. Well, wait a minute. How do you know that? You do a survey. You just have a feeling. You have the occasional customer tell you. What about people who didn't buy from you? What did they think? My point here is that when we do a SWOT analysis, we need to make sure we do it very thoroughly. We have to ask the question. You can write this one down. How do we know? How do we know we're strong in this? How do we know we're weak in a certain area? How do we know that's truly an opportunity? And how do we know those are threats, whatever they may be? So when you're going through your SWOT analysis, you do want to leverage your strengths, fix your weaknesses and all that, but ask that question, how do we know? Key number 4, you need to do a good job of listing your assumptions. You say, listing my assumptions? Well, what do you mean by that? Well, why do we need to do that? Well, the reason you need to do it is if your business isn't going as well as you would like it to, you want to know why. And maybe it's because the assumptions you made early in the planning process were the wrong assumptions, and therefore the strategy you created isn't working. And it isn't like execution, it's the strategy's wrong because your assumptions were wrong. So let me give you a few ideas on what that looks like. And your list of assumptions could be 6 deep or it can be 20 items deep. It all depends on your business. But here's a couple of examples. What about the reliability and capability of the workforce? Are they available? And you can say, yeah, we could probably get it, but it might be nip and tuck. And then heck, next thing you know, you have a problem. You can't get anybody to do the work. So you get behind in schedule, it costs you money. You hired the wrong people because you need a warm body and you get one, but they don't know what they're doing. And next thing you know, you get people quitting on you and you get all kinds of problems. So you want to make sure that if you are planning to grow your business, picking a number of 35%, that you have to have the workforce available that's capable of doing that kind of work. So it's just a small thing, but it's a big thing. Do you have the equipment and all of the other resources that you need to get the job done to grow your business 10, 20, or 30%? What's going on with your competition? Is there consolidation going on? Is there something else happening with your competitive arena that is going to impact your ability to profitably grow your business? What about the financial resources? Have you got the money to grow the business as you planned? What could hinder that? What's the cost of the dollar going to be? And suddenly you go from an interest rate like we have in this country of a couple of years ago to be fairly reasonable to be now fairly not so reasonable. And maybe there's some other places you can get money. What's the demand for your type of construction? What's the demand for the product that you're building? Is it big? Is it small? Is it even available? And can you really grow your business 35% if that was in your plan, if the demand isn't there? So you have to build that into your assumptions. And there's so many other relevant assumptions that you've got to make. And it's key to your success if you do, because if you don't, you could end up with a lot of trouble. The next one is to thoughtfully create your strategies. Well, Randy, how do you do that? First of all, I say, don't fall in the trap of confusing strategies with objectives, with actions or tactics. Don't confuse them. And so many people do. Our strategy is to do this. Well, that's not really a strategy. That's just a tactic. Our strategy is something else. No, that's not, something else isn't going to do it either. Let's just not confuse them. So we don't confuse them, let me share with you my definition of what they might be. You start with objectives, or you start with objectives and goals. And, what do you want to achieve? Do you want to achieve growing your top line by 20% and your bottom line by 10, or vice versa? What do you want to achieve? And then once you know what you want to achieve, once that's clear, what you're looking for is you then say, develop your strategy, how you plan to achieve the objective. So if you plan to grow the business by 50%, well, how are you going to do that? Is your strategy going to be acquisition, merger? Is it going to be go from residential construction to commercial construction. What is your strategy to take you from where you are to what your objectives are? And I'm not not looking for the details here. I'm just looking for what's the approach you're going to take. What's your plan? And then the actions are the details of getting it done. Those are the tactics, the steps that you're going to take to be able to meet your objectives through the strategy that you've developed. Okay, number 6, we want to properly prioritize strategies. And some of you may have seen this before, I'm not sure, but this is a beautiful tool that I'm happy to share with you. It's a matrix, and what you do is you lay it up like this, so you have choosing priorities, a low, medium, high impact on your business, and be sure to put, the dollar amounts. Is it $100,000? Is it between 100,000 and 500,000? Is it over $1 million? What is your ranges? Quantify those, and that will be your impact. And then along the left-hand side, you look at the effort or the time or the resources, whatever it is that you want to go with, and you low, medium, and high. And again, you should quantify what that might be. And then what happens is you've gone through the process, you've created all these strategies, and you've given them a number. And you say, okay, well, number 1 is going to be here. It's going to be a low impact on our bottom line or top line, whichever you're measuring. And it's not easy and not overly hard, so we're just going to put it here. Number 2, now that's going to give us a great return, but the length of time it's going to take us to do it, it's a 3-year project versus a 1-year situation. And you just plot off all the others on your matrix, and and then you just say, okay, do me first. Let's go highest impact with the lowest amount of effort. That's where you want to focus your time. That's your priority number 1. And some people call it the low-hanging fruit. I also call it the smart way to do your business. Because if you can get a great return with a low amount of effort or quick amount of time, and that's where you want to have your focus. Now, I've done this with fundraising for my son's baseball team with, 3 different teams, freshman, junior varsity, parents, there's 60 parents or more. And we lay out all the ways we're going to raise money, Christmas trees, cookie sales, car washes, whatever it is that people had these ideas, and we plot them on this graph. And when you do this on this matrix, I should say, when you do it and you have people involved, they sit back and say, aha, they have buy-in. They can see that their idea, number 4, isn't going to cut it, because what we're going to do is focus our attention on everything above that line. And if you have agreement in that, then numbers 1, 4, and 2, they don't push anymore for their idea, because they see it's not going to make the grade. So it's a great tool to use with your team or if you personally. Here's what you can do with the consolidating opportunities. So if you have identified 3 opportunities, 1, 2, and 3. Well, let's figure out what's the chance of achieving that low, medium, and high. What's the cost to achieve it? Is it low, medium, high? Again, put in some specific numbers. And what's the impact if we're successful? Again, put in some numbers. And timing, immediate, short term, longer term, and then you could quantify that by this year, 3 years, 5 years, however you want to do it. And then you just plot it out. And then you see that, I thought opportunity number 3 was going to be our worst option, but it really turns out to be our best. So let's focus on that. Here, let's go to key number 7, and that is to create a detailed action plan. So if you're going to create a detailed action plan, again, you need a tool. So here's a tool you could use. Clearly outline what your objective is, what your strategy is, and then what are you going to do? What's your actions? So you list all of the actions here under what are we going to do? Put them into bite-sized tasks so that people can do them. You then would assign priorities, go back and use that priority matrix we talked about. And then who is in charge of it? Who's going to do it? And you can't do everything yourself, so you've got to get the rest of your team involved, but you've got to make sure that they have realistic deadlines to work towards, and that they also have the resources they need to be successful. And then what you do is you just manage the plan. You look at it every 2 weeks, month, whatever is appropriate for what you're trying to accomplish. Provide updates for the entire team so we know where we are in this process. And then, hey, when you have success, and you will, if you've got a disciplined approach to planning, recognize success, celebrate your successes, and everybody will be extremely happy. So here's another view of it. You just take the items that look like that and off you go. The hard part is coming up with the specific actions and tasks, as you know. Now, I gave you a mistake number 1 earlier, and I'm going to offer you mistake number 2, which is not measuring your plan progress. Because so many people will do a plan, they went through it, they got it, and they put it on the bookshelf. Or they deviate from it, they changed it without everybody being involved. But you got to measure your progress. Remember the assumptions I shared with you? Some assumptions may not be coming to fruition, and therefore you've got to change things. So the key to it, of course, is put your plan in writing, look at it regularly, and then adjust it accordingly. And here's a snapshot of the process you do. So you have these objectives, you have your strategies and actions we talked about at a high level. You're going to measure how well you're doing. So if your goals were to achieve 10% growth in the next 3 months or whatever, well, you watch that to see how you're doing with it. So you assess your progress, and you say, you know what? It's not working out the way we expected it to. And therefore, we check our assumptions. Say, you know what? We're still doing really, really well on all of our assumptions. So that's not it. But let's go back and revise or review and revise our actions and our priorities. And then it's a cycle. But you can't just put your plan in a binder and put it on the shelf. So many companies do that. This has to be a living, breathing document that means something to you and your organization. And here's the number 3 mistake for you. It's okay. You're a small company maybe, or you have a tight circle of leadership folks in your company. And it's okay, we got the plan now. Well, listen, let's communicate this plan to the rest of the organization. Maybe there's some confidential pieces of it you don't want to communicate, but let's get people excited of understanding what the mission is, understanding what the goals are, what your strategies will be, what your priorities are going to be. Communicate that and make sure that people are accountable for it. Hold them accountable and get them excited about it, and keep them up to date with the progress. But I've seen companies create a brilliant plan, but they don't tell anybody because they're a small family business. They don't want other people to know in case they tell other people. Well, there's different ways to get around it, but you can't keep it in a vacuum. You're going to be fairly transparent, but I understand confidentiality and small businesses, and you might just have to take a different approach. And there's so many you can take, but you still got to communicate what the plan is. All right, so what's the number 1 obstacle, Randy? Well, I think this is probably not going to surprise you, but it might. I think that there's many obstacles. There's no question about it. But the number 1 obstacle for most companies is, follow me with this, is, we know that success with business growth requires planning. I believe that. I think we've proven that over the years. You've got to have a good plan. So if you want to have success, you've got to have strategies. And those strategies then have to then be implemented or executed. And I believe firmly that the number one hurdle is all about execution. So you can have the greatest plan, strategic plan there is, or a marketing plan, or whatever what you're planning to do. But if you don't execute on it and the people on your team don't execute on it, you've wasted your time. Successful strategy requires an effective planning process. I hope you agree with that. Execution requires a team of employees who are led effectively by their leader. So the leadership of this organization or of this group, or however your business unit, however your company is set up, requires the plan, but it also requires great leadership. And leadership is not something that comes natural for a lot of people. And that's where it fails, because they haven't been taught leadership. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to give feedback. They don't know how to execute. They know how to do it, but they don't know how to get the team to do it. And that's a very critical component. So look, I'm bang on time with this. I left 10 minutes for questions. I have another key point I want to share with you here in a minute. If we had any questions come up, or if you have any now, Danielle, help me out with those, because I'm not sure I can see them or if I get them. But if they're
Randy, I've been watching the chat. No questions so far, but for those of you who are still on the call, if you do have any questions, now would be the time to bring those forward, either in the chat, or you can use the Q&A feature as well.
Yeah, and as you're thinking of what those questions might be, I can take you back to 2008, when we had this terrible recession, and it drove me crazy. It drove me crazy when companies would put out press releases. Because of the economy, we have decided to close so many operations, three of their 5 operations. Well, I'm thinking, you're an idiot, because why aren't you proactively doing that versus reactively doing it? And that's what planning does for you. You don't have a very good plan if you are reacting to a situation because you didn't see it coming, because you hadn't prepared for it. And I think it's so important that you don't, hey, if you have to shut down 3 businesses out of 5, that's understandable. But let's work towards it and maybe be anticipating what that hurricane is on our horizon versus just react to it. So planning helps you prepare. So I've got a message, I think, or a question that I'm looking at. I can see it now. Look at that. What should we do to get this started? Oh, and I see that's from somebody who I know. That's okay. What's the first thing you should do to get this started? Well, it sounds to me like a good pre-meeting planning meeting would be a good thing to do. In other words, if you've not done this before and you're saying, okay, this is something new for us, maybe you should think about walking through the steps you're going to take to get you to begin the process. So it's pre-meeting planning of your planning meeting. And you know me, and I'm happy to share with you what those steps could be. It's challenging for me to come up and give them to you now, because every company is just a little bit different. How big you are, how many people are involved. Is it a family business? Who's involved on the family? What are the changes you're making in your organization that you're thinking about making? What industry are you in? All of that makes to me, an important part of the pre-meeting, pre-planning meeting and the step creation. But I'm happy to work with you on that anytime you like. Just give me a call and we'll walk you through it.
Yeah,
That's
I was going to respond to that, Randy, because it's like, okay, we're on board now, right? We've sat through this presentation and we understand now the importance and the role that the plan plays. Now it's our job to take that to the rest of the people in the organization and teach them everything we've just learned about strategic planning, get them to buy into the process, and then you can start putting the plan together.
That's true. You can't do it by yourself if you're the leader. It takes a village, so to speak, but you do have to get the rest of your organization involved. So if there are no other questions, and I see the question box now, so we seem to be clear. Let me give you, before we run out of time, one more message here on planning skills. I think if you're not doing, I mean, here's what planning skills will help you with. Create a definitive and persuasive business proposal that effectively tackles any threat or opportunity. A business proposal. So if you want to get some new equipment, you want to get some new additional resources, estimating department, engineering department, whatever it might be, having a plan makes it more persuasive because all of your thoughts fall in place to say, makes perfectly good sense. You can do some ROI calculations. You can do a variety of things. It can help you secure resources and responsibilities and desired outcomes. Okay. If you don't have a plan, how are you going to get the resources you need to grow the business? How do you assign the responsibilities to grow the business? And how do you then end up growing the business if you don't have a plan? And with a planning, you get leadership and career advancement going on. If you don't do anything, you're just out working and nobody's really growing professionally and not advancing in their career, you might lose them somewhere along the way to one of your competitors because it's more interesting and more businesslike over there versus where you are. So those are just a couple of other thoughts I think you should think about. I really would like for you to give me some feedback on today. We're trying to be on time and if you could take note of the URL and don't do this very second, but take note of it right now, but don't go there just now. But when you go there and you give me some feedback, you'll be able to download these slides for your future reference and I welcome you to do that. All you have to do is go to the URL and then enter the code when you're prompted to plan no spaces. There you go, Danielle. Thanks for putting that in there. Yes, Clint, thank you. I enjoy you being at my seminars and trainings. You're very welcome. Always happy to see you here. So Danielle, with that, I would offer to close this up and turn it back to you.
Sure. Well, thanks so much, Randy. Always a pleasure to have you on our webinar series and share your never-ending wealth of wisdom. Really appreciate you being here today, as well as everyone on the call. And I will be sending out a recording of today's presentation later today. So as you do start to have those conversations inside your organization and trying to get people on board with strategic planning and see the role and importance of it, you can share Randy's slides and presentation with them as you work to get them educated as well. And so I think that will do it for today. Thanks so much again, everyone, for being here, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate the hosting. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.